Nobody's picking Lopez to win versus Taylor. The list that he gave Lopez is for him to survive 12 rounds, but would still lose in a one-sided, unanimous decision. But they also tell us when how Lopez will be able to defeat Taylor. But first, Taylor is better in many aspects, like he has the better resume. Lee Groove says he has fought the better opposition at this weight. Second, Taylor is bigger physically and mentally stronger. According to Duke McKenzie, Taylor has the naturally bigger frame. But where do they go equal? They both have a bad performance in their last fight. The boxing pros are in almost unanimous agreement that Jack Catterall deserved the win over Josh Taylor. In that fight, Josh was outboxed, outpaced, even got knocked down, but still won a controversial split decision over Catterall. While Lopez, in the second round versus Martin, he caught a right hook, made him hit the canvas, scoring an official knockdown for Martin. But at the end of the fight, Teofimo Lopez still edges a split decision over Sandor Martin in a flawed performance, according to boxing fans. So what should Teofimo Lopez do and put in his arsenal to bring to the game to defeat Taylor? Number one, he has to overcome the mental issues or weakness. According to Regis Prograis, I think Lopez is mentally weak. He asked after his last fight if he still has it. And Tom Gray says, I rate Lopez highly. I just question his mental stability. Yeah. So number two, Teo should take advantage of Taylor's long layoff. Okay, according to Coyote Duran, if there's anything to hold against Josh Taylor's, it's his inactivity of nearly 16 months. So number three, Teo should figure out strategy to fight a southpaw. Anson Wainwright says, Lopez hasn't looked so dominant as he did at 135, notably struggling with Sandor Martin. Teo should capitalize on Josh's weakness because Josh is not a jabber. Teo is a better counter puncher. So Doug Fisher says, Taylor's a big junior welterweight with good reach, but he often neglects his job and doesn't shy away from infighting. Lopez is an explosive counter puncher, so the defending champ may fall into the strength of the former lightweight champ. Jolene Mison says, for Teo to win the fight, he is going to need to fight and keep his focus like he did with the Loma fight. Alex Tidman says, Lopez is the puncher here and wouldn't be a surprise winner. So let's compare the punch stats of Lopez and Taylor on their best and worst performance. So the boxing analyst is expecting Lopez to perform as he did with Lomachenko. So Teofimo Lopez on his fight with Lomachenko throw 659 punches. That's a lot. And landing 183 of those punches, defeating Lomachenko, outboxing Lomachenko. That's why he was the winner in that fight. And in his worst performance versus Martin, he was limited to 391 thrown punches in that fight. Lopez is averaging 500 plus punches per fight, but in that fight, he was limited to 391 and only landing 97 of those punches. Meanwhile, in his fight with Lomachenko, he landed 183. Now let's check on Josh. Worst and best performance. Josh Taylor, best performance is with Jose Ramirez. He threw 500 punches in that fight, landing a mass of 145. That is 27.4%. 530. He can throw an average of 500 to 600 punches in every match. In his worst performance versus Catterall, he just threw 306. That's too few for the Josh that we know, and only landing 73. Why? That's because of the boxing style. That depends on the opponent. How good is your opponent is. That's where it will limit your punching stats. Your output will be limited based on your opponent. If your opponent is a better counter puncher, if your opponent is a faster and stronger, what would you do? You will be forced to defend yourself. You cannot throw a lot of punches because you will be defending yourself. And that's why In that fight, Catterall was the better man. He was faster, stronger versus Taylor. So Taylor was limited to 306 punches, just like what Crawford did versus Sean Porter. Sean Porter can throw a lot of punches in every game, like 500 to 600. But in that fight with Crawford, he was limited to 300 punch in that game. Why? Because Crawford is a counter puncher and has this faster hand speed. And in this fight versus Teofimo, Josh Taylor versus Teofimo, according to the boxing analyst, Teofimo has the better hand speed and is a better counter puncher. So it will play a big role in this fight with Taylor. If Josh Taylor will perform his worst, like throwing 306 of his total punches thrown in that fight, and Teofimo will perform his best, like throwing 659 and landing 183. So I think it will be a one-sided win for Lopez. But we're going to see a different Josh here. He has changed a trainer, changed the game plan, and learned his lesson in his last fight with Catterall. So we will be expecting Josh Taylor to be in his best performance against Lopez. We're expecting that he will be throwing 500 to 600 total punches, especially in his power punches, and possibly could land 120 plus versus Teofimo's best, which is 148. I hope. But if Teofimo Lopez will perform his worst, only landing 76 power punches, I think he will lose versus Taylor, which could throw 129 power punches. So let's hope that Lopez will perform his best, like what he did with Lomachenko. In that fight, it's 148 landed power punches versus Taylor's best, which is 129. So it's going to be close, and it's up to the judges to give us the score. But if the fight will happen and they will perform their best, they will each have a higher chance. It will go to the scorecard, and who has a precision and clear punches, I think that's the one who will win.